And have a listen to this. Have a listen to this.
Interest rates are higher, and people don't like that, but you should be welcoming a stronger economy.
And maybe a deal has a point about the machinery of capitalism being oiled with the blood of the workers.
The United States is a country that has always paid all of its bills.
Lannister always pays his debts.
Don't let the bastards get you.
Hello and welcome back to Comedian versus Economist. We've had a couple of weeks off and it is nice to be back, and it's nice of you to join us. We demystify the world of money and help you get a handle on the bigger picture. My name's Adam and we're joined as always by my little older brother and real life economist, Thomas. Hi, Thomas.
Yeah, g'day, Adam. How you going?
Doing excellent, thank you. Thomas, as investors, we're always looking for the next unicorn. Well, we've found it. The Equity Mates merch store now has unicorn t-shirts. Grab yourself a unicorn on a shirt right now at equitymates.com/shop, or you can choose the classic embroidered Equity Mates logo, or even the old school Equity Mates retro bull logo. There is literally something for everyone as long as you like one of those three. Available right now at equitymates.com/shop. But Thomas, massive show coming up as always. Dominion, makers of voting machines, have settled their defamation lawsuit against Fox News. Apparently, the Fox News board took it to a vote, then realised they needed voting machines and agreed to settle. Many governments, Thomas, have programs to keep kids off the streets. South Korea have launched a bold new plan to get kids on the streets. We'll see how that's working out. And Netflix is taking away their DVD rental service after 25 years. What next? Will Spotify follow suit and remove their mixtape catalogue? But first, Thomas, the RBA paused rates while we were away. Coincidence? Or can we pretty safely say that without Comedian versus Economist, the RBA is like a rudderless vessel adrift in a sea of confusion? I guess if they hike again now that we're back on, then it's pretty much locked in, as they say.
Yeah.
Correlation equals condensation. And I reckon they're sweating it right now. Thomas, what have the RBA been up to while we've been off?
Yeah, so we had the big news last week was the review into the RBA, the first one since they became independent in the 90s, once in a generation review.
Once in a generation. Just like a good flood. Like a pandemic.
Yeah. Well, those once in a generation floods happen every 3 or 4 years up my way. So a bit more regular. But I mean, nothing major. If you're looking for sort of big shifts to the way monetary policy operates or the way we even think about the objectives of monetary policy, like whether we, worth crushing people into unemployment just to keep inflation low, that question's wasn't on the table. It's really just how do we do the RBA better? And so it's really just sort of some tweaks around the edges is what we got.
Good. I think that's what the Australian public's been crying out for, to be honest. Amid record pace of rate hikes, 10 in a row, I think the Australian public were just saying, "Look, can you just tweak around the edges a little bit, please?" And so, what are they recommending?
Yeah, so nothing major.
What do they come out with?
Well, less meetings is one of the ones. So going from 11 meetings a year to 8.
Can't get 10 rate rises in a year if you only have 8 meetings.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Nip that one in the bud.
Fixed. Next.
Yeah, but that's what the Fed does. So most of this stuff is just bringing into line with the Fed. Yeah, more press conferences, more post-meeting statements. Going to get votes by board members. We won't know who voted for what, but we'll get an idea of the number of votes. So who voted for rate hikes and who didn't.
Oh, yeah.
Which would be that'll be kind of interesting. Probably the one of the big shifts is that we're getting rid of the board of business professionals. So largely the RBA board works a bit like a corporate board. You have business leaders on that who then listen to the governor make his pitch for his recommendations and then vote on whether they agree with that or not. Historically, I don't even think there's even a case definitely not recently, where the board has voted against what the governor has recommended. And so it's sort of an idea that maybe instead of people from the business community who have, talents in their own areas, but what you actually want there is people with expertise in economics and monetary policy. And they might be
boring though, wouldn't it? It'd be boring. You get like Jerry Harvey from Harvey Norman in there, like the business community involved. That's an interesting meeting. You get a bunch of economists to join the RBA. Some policy experts in monetary policy, did you say? That's no one wants to sit. No wonder they want less meetings. They've invited. That proposal for less meetings came immediately following the decision to invite more economists and monetary policy experts to the meeting. All right, well, if they're all coming, I propose less meetings.
There was some discussion of more comedians at the meeting, but that got mixed.
No vision, Phil.
Yeah.
Right.
The other thing that I think might be interesting is that there's a requirement that the RBA has to explain how long they'll think inflation and full employment will deviate from their targets. So the RBA has had a mandate for full employment and inflation, or stable currency as it used to be called, since its inception.
Not a stable coin?
No,
stable
not a stable coin, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I need to update that. But in practice, the full employment one was sort of pushed to the side and they just focused on inflation. That might still be the case in practice, but if they've got to publish how long they think they're going to deviate from full employment, that might centre employment more into their thinking and into their discussion.
Have we got full employment now, or just recently? I feel like
I mean, typically, I think we're under full employment now. I think it's 4 to 4.5%, sort of where current estimates are. I mean, it's interesting because there's no fixed definition of it, and that's just the current economic thinking at the moment.
Something for the next meeting, perhaps. Whack it on the agenda. Come up with a definition for full employment. Given it's a target, given we're going to focus on it now, we probably should know when we get there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. It has been this sort of vague thing that sort of sits in the background, but these requirements seem to centre it more, which will be interesting. And interesting because often the criticism is that inflation targeting has an employment cost.
Right.
That if you jack up rates to target inflation, that can potentially lift unemployment. Particularly if you're in a cost push, stagflationary scenario, that can push up employment. So there's sometimes a trade-off there. So it'd be quite interesting to see the RBA, how the RBA works with that, and to explain both of that. And that should bring that sort of trade-off more into popular discourse, which could shift how we sort of start to think about monetary policy. So from a big picture, that's sort of the only one I think is kind of that might shift the way we think and do monetary policy, but maybe not. We'll have to see how it plays out in practice.
So would this review have been any different if it had happened pre-COVID? Has COVID sort of changed, or was that the need for the review?
No, I mean, it's interesting. A lot of the focus from the media has been on the aggressiveness of the recent rate hikes and Phil Lowe predicting no rate hikes until 2024. But that wasn't what the review was about. The review was sort of launched, I think, even pre-COVID. And that was about the RBA missing on the downside too much, and that's what sort of drove the review. And there's nothing here that really would have shifted the way that the RBA would have responded to COVID and the aggressiveness of the rate cuts, and then the aggressiveness of the rate hikes, and even Phil Lowe's statements. There's a requirement. One of the recommendations is that he does a press conference after each meeting, the way they do with the Fed. So, which would mean more statements that are potentially misleading if he's sort of, he's just required to speak off the cuff as people ask him questions. That could create more misdirection potentially. So, it's not clear that, these recommendations would have prevented any of the things that people are, today are a bit upset about with the course through COVID. Don't think any of that would really have changed it.
No. I look forward to. I might see if I can get in the press gallery and ask Phil a few questions at the first one. Just see what he got to say. Right, Thomas, Fox News settled their defamation case with Dominion voting systems last week. What's this story all about?
Yeah, this is all kinds of fascinating. So it was a US $787.5 million settlement. Very specific number, but that's what they came up with.
What was it? Sorry, 785 million.
$787.5 million US dollars, 1.2 billion Aussie. So it's a lot of money. Basically, Fox News said that voting Dominion systems had enabled election fraud during the 2020 election, and that was false, shown to be false, and they knew it was false and still were publishing it. That was what Dominion's was alleging.
Right.
And so it didn't go to court, which, would have been super fascinating to see that all play out in court. But we did get a lot of information. Dominion managed to gather together a whole bunch of texts and emails from within Fox, which seemed to show that Fox knew that what they were saying about Dominion was false, but they went ahead and did it anyway because they were afraid of losing viewers.
Right.
It's
a pretty high stakes kind of thing. Like, I can understand why Dominion went in, because someone's accusing them of going like, your machines were no good in this government election, and Dominion would be like, well, it's pretty important that we keep the government as a customer because we make voting machines. Like, if you lose the government as a customer, then you're pretty much just left with, like, what are you left with? You're competing with show of hands at the local footy club AGM. Like, what do you do with 4 million voting machines if you don't have the government as a customer?
That's right, and that's what they're saying. That Ohio, they lost a contract with Ohio for a state government election because of Trump's supporters pushing back against them.
Okay.
So that's any material losses there. But the series of events is really fascinating. So Trump lost the election. Fox declared Arizona, which was contentious at the time. But then Rupert Murdoch sent an email to the CEO of Fox saying, look, Trump's lost. So he's obviously lost. He's going to look like a sore loser now. We should make sure our hosts don't look like sore losers as well. And so there was a directive at the top from day one that Fox shouldn't buy into the stolen election narrative.
Right.
So Fox News wasn't buying into the stolen election narrative. But then Fox Business News, which is like this small subsidiary of Fox, went, oh, hang on, there's an opportunity here, because people were annoyed, like like nutjob Trump supporters were like threatening to blow up Fox and stuff, and so Fox Business News went, oh well, there's an opportunity there. So they got Maria Bartiromo, who invited a lawyer called Sidney Powell, who was for a while was Trump's lawyer, onto her morning show on Fox Business News. She and Sidney Powell said she had these explosive claims, and she forwarded an email to Bartiromo by a woman called Marlene Bourne, who is an artist from Minnesota who makes cactus art using glitter and crystals.
Right.
And in this email,
that's your go-to, isn't it? That's yeah.
Nothing says credible source like cactus artist. I don't even know what cactus art is.
Right.
Anyway, so Bourne claims that there were voting irregularities, and they had a common thread that they were all the states where the voting irregularities were using Dominion voting systems. And so that was this explosive revelation. They said, how do you know this? And she says, I have vivid dreams, which are like time travel, and sometimes I listen to the wind.
Yes. Yes. No, that all checks out.
She also claimed she had been internally decapitated in a car accident in 1992 and shot in the back by the FBI in 2018. But she's still alive.
But she's still alive.
Yeah.
And she's growing cactuses, or cacti, sorry.
Cacti.
Don't want to risk a defamation lawsuit here. So maybe she grew a cactus in the shape of a T and was like, well, that's, if you want evidence, here it is. There's a cactus in the shape of a T for Trump. He should have won. Now I'll provide you with some expertise on voting systems.
Yeah. So Bartiromo, the presenter on Fox Business News, has seen this email from Bourne, right, who is clearly all kinds of crazy. And Sydney Power's going to talk about it, and she's like, yeah, bring it on. And then this sort of thing blows up. So it becomes like, okay, now, all right, so we're seizing. So Fox News then, so Bartiromo launched it, a few of supporters launched it, then the big names on Fox started getting behind it because they wanted to get their base back. Some of their base had switched off because Fox wasn't championing the stolen election narrative. And so this thing started to blow up.
It's such a crazy concept that you would stop watching the news because the news stopped supporting your views. Like in Australia, I mean, I know we've got sort of right-leaning, left-leaning news sources and whatever, but it's such a crazy, like I just grew up watching the news as this, that's where you found out what was happening. You expected the truth. You expect to be told what's going on. It's such a crazy scenario to think people are like, well, this Channel 9 nightly news has stopped telling me what I want to hear.
Yeah, but that's I think that's what this lays bare, is that this is the narrative. So
Right.
yeah, so all the Fox presenters started like wanting to jump on this, and the CEO Susan Scott email Rupert Murdoch says, I think we've lost control of the presenters and people are really liking the story. It's time to pivot, quote unquote. It's time to pivot. And so they sort of go all in on the Dominion voting machine stealing the things. Dominion sends 3,600 fact-checking emails to Fox. Every time someone said something stupid about Dominion, they said, no, that's actually not true.
Yeah.
But then people at Dominion
they forwarded Dominion's emails to the Crystal Cactus lady and for review. And she came back and said, no, stick to your guns. Dominion voting systems, don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I've got the scoop. I've checked with the future and this all ends well for you guys. Trust me. Double down here.
Double down. Yeah. So they did. And so then staff at Dominion Voting Systems start receiving death threats and someone is found outside their offices with a long-range rifle.
What?
Dominion has to spend $600,000 on security for their staff.
Wow.
But the thing that's super interesting is like Dominion's got all these text messages and emails from the staff and from the flagship presenters like Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity and those guys, and they're all saying like, wow, this woman's a nut job. Like she's on shrooms or something. There's a quote saying, oh, she's on shrooms and cocaine.
Cactus juice, probably.
Cactus, yeah, probably cactus. So they're saying that privately, like she's obviously a nut job, yet repeating the claims on television saying like, yep, this is what's happening. There's questions about voting Dominion system. We need to look into it. Rah, 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 stolen election, can't believe it. Yeah, but then also at the same time saying like, yeah, we need to get our base back. We're losing voters. Our share price is falling. We need to get them back. We're going to go with this. And so, and this is what, so there's an interesting legal hurdle that Dominion had to clear, which is to show that not only did they just accidentally present the wrong facts or present them as opinion, but there was what they call, quote, actual malice, that there was a deliberate attempt to, a deliberate idea to publish things that weren't true in order to boost their share price and their revenue.
Oh, okay. Like not malice as in they wanted to take down Dominion voting systems.
No.
That's some vendetta against these machine makers.
No.
Right. No, okay. Yeah. Malicious as in, yeah.
Yeah, so they had to show that they were deliberately doing it for the money, and then every lawyer who looked at all these emails and text messages that came back said like, "Oh, this looks like a pretty good case. There's a pretty good chance Dominion's going to win, even though that's a really high legal hurdle to clear. Kind of looks like they're probably going to get it."
Yeah, right.
So that's ultimately why Fox settled.
So they're big on free speech in the States. They've got an amendment. I forget which number. Fifth Amendment, first. I don't know. The not guns one. The other one they like to quote. So none of this, because these were opinions on Fox, were they, or did they drift into news?
Well,
Did they stretch to reporting, or were they always opinions?
Well, this is the thing. Like, you can kind of get away with it. And there was another defamation lawsuit in 2020 against Tucker Carlson, and Fox successfully defended that and argued that the general, quote, general tenor of Carlson's show should inform viewers that he's, quote, not stating actual facts about the topics he discusses, and is instead engaging in, quote, exaggeration and non-literal commentary.
Making shit up, as we call it here in Australia.
Yeah. Even though he's on a news channel, it's not literal facts. And that was a successful defense.
Right.
And this is and sort of saying, well, we're entertaining and, you know, we're throwing things up. But I think where this crossed the line is that it was people clearly understood that the voting story wasn't true. There was no basis to it. And yet they were peddling it because, and their motivations were laid clear in the emails and text messages, that they thought it was going to make them more money. And so that's where you lose your protection of free speech, or that no longer becomes relevant because you're saying stuff in order to make money. And that's what Fox was doing.
Right. So I suspect I know the answer to this question, but do you reckon this is going to change anything about Fox News or the way they go about it? Like, was this just cost of doing business?
You look at the way they pivoted twice through that, and then eventually now they sort of backed away somewhat from Trump, and after the sort of the insurrection and the January 6th, it's kind of clear they didn't really know what they were doing, and the presenters were running their own show, and there wasn't an ability to control them. The lawyers were kind of freaking out, going, "Oh, whoa, he's saying stuff that's going to get us in trouble," but we couldn't stop him. So it was kind of like the picture it paints of how Fox operates is kind of chaotic. So I think like they might try it. Like, I think they'll learn the lesson. Like, it's expensive. It's the biggest defamation suit on record, I think. So, you know, they don't want that kind of cost coming around regularly. So they're going to get more clear about that. But I think, you know, they'll be a bit more careful.
I just imagine them like just going, you know what, I think we can expect more of these. We'll set up a defamations department within Fox and we'll just factor it into the business plan. Like, just that'll be please direct all inquiries to our defamations department for payouts in 30 to 90 days. All right, we'll take a break here, grab a word from this week's sponsors, and we will be back with more Comedian versus Economist, including South Korea's plan to give kids money to go on the streets, as well as what is happening to Netflix's DVD rental service. Back with more right after this. Welcome back. You're on Comedian versus Economist, and today's episode is brought to you by IG. IG has a great platform which provides enormous amounts of information and guidance on how to be a better investor, but they also want to teach investors how to master their mind to avoid the problems that beset even the best investors. And Thomas, today we're going to take a look at South Korea because seemingly Comedian versus Economist is your home of South Korean information after a story a couple of weeks ago on the 69-hour work week. But this week we're looking at their plan to get kids out of the house, get kids out onto the streets to the point that they're prepared to pay them to do so. What's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't about all kids. This is about recluses.
Right.
Yeah, so saying there's a bit of a problem. Say 3% of South Koreans between the age of 19 and 39 are considered lonely or secluded.
Right, so not young kids either. Like when we say kids. Hey, you're 12. Get out there.
No, like that's just targeted from the ages of 9 up. So they're trying to get it before it becomes a problem. So this is it's an interesting one. The term is called hikikomori, which describes people who have withdrawn from society. It was initially a Japanese term that like sort of surfaced first in Japan and was first identified. There's 1 million hikikomori in Japan. People who just like don't leave their rooms, don't leave their house. I was reading a story the other day about a 52-year-old man who hasn't left the house since he was 22.
Wow.
Yeah.
I do plan to get out soon, but pretty comfortable.
They're saying it's not a comfort thing. It's not that they're just like, just being home's too good. Is they're actually become so afraid of the outside world, so intimidated by interacting with other people that they just stay home and can't deal with it. And because and then kind of the way Japan and maybe Korea too is sort of culturally set up, the parents don't kick them out onto the street. They just kind of just set them up in their room and just kind of live with it.
Lock the door and walk away.
Walk away.
Out of sight, out of mind. Right. Okay.
Yeah, so the South Korean government's trying to get ahead of this, and so they got money to sort of stop, to encourage people to get out. Yeah, potentially thousands of dollars. So it can include $490 a month just for general living expenses.
You know that's going on. New iPhone, maybe upgrade the gaming rig.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Get some water cooling on your graphics card or something. I don't know.
Yeah, Uber Eats.
Uber Eats. There you go.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe you've got to show receipts from somewhere 10 kilometres outside your house or something.
Yeah. It's like the anti-COVID restrictions, like where you couldn't travel more than 10 k's away from your home. Here you need to demonstrate that you've travelled at least 10 k's from your address.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know this is a serious thing.
Yeah, it is. But so it's not just that. There's job counselling, education, health support. Right. Yeah, so it's just trying to get ahead of this. I mean, I find this interesting because, it's surfaced in Japan. We're now seeing it in Korea. I feel like, it's one of the things like, couldn't happen in Australia, couldn't happen in America. But there's a large number of people, particularly young men, who are withdrawing from the world. Yeah, and computers give them still some access to the world in a controlled interaction kind of setting, so they can kind of just stop interacting with real humans. I think it's going to be, particularly as we get into the metaverse, I think this will be more and more of an issue. So I think it's just interesting that Korea's sort of jumping on it now.
All right. So do you reckon this is going to work?
I mean, it's probably positive at the margin. So it's interesting. Like I was looking at on IG's Trading Hub about, how you work with fear. Like particularly as a trader, you want to, you don't want to be driven by your fear because that's going to drive you into poor trades. Yeah, and looking at sort of the way you overcome fear, money's going to help, but like really there's a lot of internal work you got to do. And there's sort of 7 steps for overcoming fear that I could see.
Oh, you got a list.
I've got a list.
I can feel a list coming on.
Yeah, I know you love your lists. Yeah, so the first one is understand the value of your fears. So they're designed to protect you. You don't want to just feel ashamed about being fearful. You don't want to push your fears into the shadow. You just got to see like, they're just part of the story of being human, and they're okay. Yep. So that's number one. 2, you got to understand where your fears come from. So they come from the amygdala, which is your lizard brain. This idea. Like we got to, as a human, you got your lizard brain, then you got your mammalian brain, then you got your human brain. Like they're kind of like 3 things.
I've never heard that before. That we have a lizard brain. No.
Yeah. Well, the way we've evolved, we never like went back and decommissioned the old architecture. We just tacked new stuff on the front of it.
Right.
Yeah. So that's why you got your reptilian brain, which all reptiles have.
I don't want to divert too far off course here, but I thought we evolved from monkeys and apes.
Yeah, but lizards before that. I think.
You're going way back.
Way back. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm sure I'm grossly oversimplifying the topic. But
No, I think that's bang on.
Yeah.
Any kids out there listening? We were lizards, then we were monkeys, then we were people.
Yeah.
Now go outside and play.
Yeah. So you got your lizard brain, which controls your fear and controls your flight and fight response. And saying it's good at discerning fears and responding to fears, but it doesn't distinguish between mortal dangers and growth challenges. Right. And so you just got to be aware that your lizard is going to overreact to fears from time to time, and that's just a reality you got to deal with. Third one is that you got to identify your fears and put some definition on them. So like if you're afraid of losing money in your trading, like what are you actually afraid of? Is it the embarrassment of losing money? Is it the financial insecurity that it might create? Like to really get into define it with definition so you understand exactly what is driving your fears, not just the broad context. Number 4, you got to explore the downside. So if you can convince yourself that, if you can live with the results, like if your fears came true and you go like, oh yeah, I might lose some money, but I'll be okay. I'll get through it. I'll bounce back. If you can kind of, convince yourself that you'd be okay with the downside if your fears were realized, that helps take some of the sting out of the fear.
Yeah, and we've talked about that sort of stuff before too, about having a plan and having kind of, going into it with your plan in place, your horizon set, kind of going, all right, well, you're in it for the long haul and there will be ups and downs and all the rest of it.
Yeah. Number 5 is you focus on the goals on the other side of your fears, what you're trying to get towards. So that helps you build the motivation to take your fears on and try to overcome them. So build up your motivation. Number 6, something kind of cool called fear ladders. Kind of seems like the only way to sort of tackle your fears is with kind of exposure, with sort of just acclimatization to them. So which means just going into them and learning to deal with them. Yeah, this is like if someone's got an intense fear of spiders, the fear ladder you build is you start by looking at pictures of flowers that kind of look like spiders. And then you
smash the spider with your ladder that you built, WWE style, like a chair from the side of the ring.
No, not that. So you look at a picture of a flower that looks like a spider until you're okay with that, and then you look at a picture of a flower that looks a lot like a spider until you're okay with that, and then you might look at a picture of a spider where the spider's really far away in the distance until you're okay with that, and then you bring the few close. So you sort of like step up and up and up until you can come to terms with the thing that you're afraid of.
And you're much less likely to be seeing any spiders while you're spending so much time looking at pictures of flowers.
That's right.
So it's a good distractive technique too.
Yeah, now you're bringing a lot to this conversation.
And you'll be at the top of a ladder where the spiders can't get you.
Yeah, and then the last one, which I think is interesting, is to reframe your fear as a challenge. So humans like challenges. We like playing computer games because we like the challenge involved. Facing, the feeling of fear is really the feeling of challenge, but with a negative spin on it. So try to sort of like move into the positive side of the coin and be like, okay, I'm not afraid right now. I'm actually just feeling challenged.
Right.
And that helps reframe the whole story.
I'm challenged because all my shares have gone to zero. All right. Well, if you are ready to conquer your fears and you're ambitious, ready to put in the work and improve your trading, then it's time to step up from your entry-level platform to IG. IG is where traders are made. Search Master Your Trading Mind or head to the Master Your Trading Mind hub on IG.com to find out more. All trading involves risk. Issued by IG Australia Proprietary Limited, ABN 93096585410. AFSL 515106. All right, finally, Thomas, just quickly, we got a trading update from Netflix last week. Anything worth watching?
Yeah, Netflix turned a profit, which, $5.6 billion in 2022, which is a good outcome, particularly in the context like all the other, it's the only streaming service to be turning a profit. Disney, Warner Brothers, Peacock and Paramount lost $14 billion collectively. So, yeah, they're doing well, but it was a little disappointing. The market was a little disappointing in some of the numbers, so not a super good result. But yeah, challenges ahead because I think the challenge for Netflix is their competitors have lots of money. They're going up against Amazon. They've got deep pockets, so they need to sort of. But they're making a profit, so good news story for Netflix. The thing that I thought was interesting is that they're canning their DVD by mail service.
That's how they started. That's their bread and butter. That's the origin story. Right. It's still going.
Yeah. It's still going. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, they started in 1998. Yeah. The first DVD they shipped was Beetlejuice.
Right.
They had a DVD by mail service. 5.2 billion discs have shipped around America.
That's gonna annoy the person who's still using the service.
Yeah. Didn't say how many they are, but I think at its peak in 2010, which is not that long ago, they had 20 million subscribers. Yeah, I've got to think that's probably in the single digits now. But, I mean, maybe not.
As in single digits in terms of like one person.
But,
three people,
3 or 4. Yeah.
Oh, imagine this news of it's just one guy somewhere going, "What? How am I going to finish watching House of Cards? Get me my letter writing pen, Doris. It's time I send this Netflix a letter.
Yeah.
Aside from shutting down the DVD rental service that no one's using, was there any updates on the password sharing crackdown by any chance? Asking for a friend.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so this is going well. They're trialing password sharing crackdown in 4 markets: Portugal, Spain, New Zealand, and Canada. Said they were happy with how that was going. Said that in Canada, their paid membership base is now larger than before the crackdown. And revenue growth is faster in the US. So, so I think it looks like they're happy with it, and they're going to start extending it globally, sometime within the year, I think.
I was discussing streaming services at a barbecue on Saturday night, and I share streaming services. Please don't come at me, Netflix. But as most other people I was talking to did as well, and we did think that maybe one of the dangers of cracking down on passwords and getting rid of sharing is that sharing really locks you in. Like if you're sharing your account with 3 people and you're all sharing the cost, then you're much less likely to go, I might just drop out for 2 months. Like because Anna and I, the ones that we pay for individually, we're much more inclined to just shut them down for 2 months or a month or 3 months or whatever, and try and just have a maximum number of streaming services that we're using at any one time. And so we'll have Netflix this month, then we'll switch to Stan, then we'll switch to Binge, whatever. Whereas the ones that I share with people, not looking at anyone, Thomas, the ones I share with people, I'm much less likely to take a month off. So I would think that they would make more money by allowing people to share.
Yeah, it's probably right. Actually, reminds me, I did mean to tell you I'm going to take a month off.
That's all right. You don't pay me anyway. All right. Very good. All right. Why don't we leave it there? Thank you so much for tuning in. A bit of a topsy-turvy episode today. First week back. We'll be back in the saddle in no time. We look forward to you joining us again next time on Comedian versus Economist. It's bye for now.
You have been listening to an Equity Mates Media production. In the spirit of reconciliation, Equity Mates Media acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. This podcast is intended for education and entertainment purposes. Any advice is general advice only and has not taken into account your personal financial circumstances, needs, or objectives. Before acting on general advice, you should consider if it is relevant to your needs and read the relevant product disclosure statement. And if you're unsure, please speak to a financial professional. The hosts of this podcast and their guests may have positions in the companies mentioned. Equity Mates Media operates under an Australian Financial Services Licence 540697.